that we're going to look at, and you all will be doing another activity where you're making slides, presenting a decade of film, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. All right, I will let you. Those of you who are really interested in a certain decade, we'll start with that first because I like for you to be interested in a decade. Those who don't mind, I can just assign a decade for you. All right. All right, that's the assignment. No, I know it. I need to go to this. Oh, what am I doing? Hang on.
Click the non-turn.
Yeah, view assignment. Here we go. Okay, so who wants to go first? And Sharon, I'm going to go ahead and get the lights, and we can just. I'm assuming everyone's ready. I know I'm starting. I guess quick. Everyone is finished, right? Let me check my virtual. I'm going to hang this flag in just a moment. It freaked me out because I couldn't find it a minute ago. Our flag fell down, or it didn't fall down. It was behind the W, so I'll hang that up in just a moment. Virtual, everyone is ready to share. Let me know. Put it in chat, or you can unmute and tell me. You guys ready to go? Okay, are you ready to share? All right, so who would like to go first?
I can if nobody else wants to.
Rachel wants to go first. Let's go ahead and line these up so it's easier. Who will go second? Okay, Anakin, who will go third? All right, Kobe. 4? Anybody 4? Virtual? 4, a journey. Okay, 5th?
I'll go.
Okay, who is that?
Sarai.
All right, thank you, Sarai's going to go, what did I say, 5th? All right, he'll be 6th. Rayleigh? All right, 7th. Tell you what, when we get to that point, I'll just start. We'll just go from there. We got our first 6. That's great. All right, here we go. And so we said, let's see, Rachel. Okay, you can either come up here or you can stay at your seat. It's really better if you share though instead of me reading what's on there, since I haven't watched it, and so you can tell us more. Really, it's more firsthand. If I just read it, I can't really expand on it much. I'm hoping that you might read what you've written, and then you might say a little bit from your memory of what you watched. So, again, I'm not going to force anybody, but it's a better presentation if you'll do that for us.
All right. So my documentary is The Boy Who Won't Eat. It was about 2 children, Bobby and Jesse J. I think it's her name.
Okay.
Bobby has like some sort of severe anxiety around food, and so he can only eat like beans. I think it was like baked beans and chocolate. Like he lived on baked beans and chocolate.
Wow.
And he like was scared to eat anything else. And like when he would put food up to his mouth, he'd gag and throw up. And so they had to take him to like some psychologist or whatever, and they'd have to put him through like this diagnosis stage. And so he wanted to eat, but he literally could not. Like he tried, but he could. Like he cried because he couldn't eat pizza.
Oh.
And so they got him to the psychologist, and she made him write down a couple foods that like he wanted to start off with, and so he like worked his way up, and so now he's like. It was like 14 weeks. It took like 14 weeks just to get him to eat pizza.
Oh.
It took a long time just to keep her pizza. And then the other one, Jessie J, she's like 3, and she couldn't talk at all, and like she would make like just noises, and she'd freak out when she didn't get her way. Like everything has to go her way. She wouldn't make eye contact with you if you were like talking to her. She'd repeat everything that you said to her, and like. So they put her through this like large, like expanding like diagnosis. Like they were thinking of autism, but they wasn't gonna label her as autistic because that's like a big deal. And so they were like, let's see if she just has social problems. And so they put her like through all these different scenarios, and they just finally came to the like conclusion that she was autistic. And then her parents were like freaking out, so she went to her. Like some sort of behavioral specialist or whatever, and they tried to like teach her how to like act normal, I guess you could say.
Right.
Because apparently autism is more common in boys, and girls are more prone to like hiding that. Like we watch people and we would act just the same as they did. So we kind of hide if we're autistic, we hide it. Like we don't show symptoms until we're like teenagers. And so most boys get diagnosed young, but most girls get diagnosed in their teens. And so they were trying to like figure out what was wrong with her, and no one really had thought of it until like she would make eye contact. She wouldn't like make a conversation with you. She'd only talk about what she wants to talk about. She would never like, she'd repeat what you said. She would never like actually engage in conversation. So do you want to know the rest of it?
Absolutely, yes. I'm just curious. So this was one documentary that was
Yeah,
titled
it was about 2 people.
"With the Boy Who Won't Eat," and
Yeah.
they didn't really include. And to me, I mean, they're both interesting, but she sounds every bit as more,
Yeah.
if not more, interesting as the other one. So interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like
Okay.
both of the parents kind of like reacted in the same way. I guess you could say.
Sure.
Like the boy's parents, Bobby's parents, his dad was really like all for it. Like whenever he started eating food, he was like, "Oh yeah, you eat however much you want." Like kept giving him food that he would eat. And so the mom was like, "No, don't force him if he doesn't like it. Don't do this." And so there was a big like issue.
They were having issues.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like,
Stress.
because the dad was like supporting him and all for it, and then the mom was like kind of scared of how he would do with it.
Sure.
And the girl Jessie J, whenever she was diagnosed with autism, the dad was like all for getting her help and stuff, and the mom was like, and she started crying. And she was not ready for it, you know.
Sure.
And the dad kind of expected it because they had her like pediatrician had been saying that could be signs. But what else do I need to say?
It sounds like the family needs support as well. They need almost a type of
Yeah,
therapy to learn how to.
they kind of
Deal
have like
with
a family therapist type
Sure.
session or whatever on the documentary.
Okay.
Like where the mom would say how she feels about the son not eating, and then the
Right.
dad would say how he feels, and
Okay.
it was just a big.
Was it equal time for both, or was there more on the boy?
At the beginning, it started off with the boy, but then it would go. But there's another one that
Huh. Okay.
there's
Okay.
like I guess it was mainly around the boy, but it and kind of they incorporated her into it. I don't know.
But both. How can I say this? Issues that can be helped with therapy.
Yeah,
Right. So they might have thought that the boy who wouldn't eat would draw more. Oh, I'm gonna watch that. It might be more interesting than just saying,
Yeah.
oh, a story of however they would label that young teenage girl with behavior problems. And that, maybe. It sounds really good. Okay, what else did you find out?
Let's see. The girl, she like. They said that most of her speech problems came like she was 3, and so she had that little, what do they call it? They call it like, I don't know, but we call it like a passy, the little they call it something else.
Oh,
They're
they-
like British or something.
Oh,
But they
okay.
call it something else. But she had the passy in her mouth like all the time.
Uh-huh.
And so every time she'd talk, you couldn't really understand. But she could say like dog and stuff. Like she couldn't say like sentences. Like they said that a normal 3-year-old should say 4 to 5 like length sentences, like by the time of 3. And she couldn't say any of that. She just said dog and like mom, dad, and that's her whole vocabulary. And so when they started taking the passy out of her mouth, she would repeat back to what you would say to her. Like she likes to play with dolls or whatever, and whenever you tell her to put the doll in the crib, she'll be like, put the doll in the crib. She'll say exactly what you said and then like repeat it back to you. And they said that was, I don't remember the word for it, but it was some sort of thing that you would do, like a sign of autism. Like if you'd repeat stuff. And so and she would watch you out of her peripheral vision, but
Okay.
she wouldn't make direct eye contact.
Okay.
Like she would just and like normally like when someone tickles you, you would have like a response. Like
Sure.
you would look and see who it is, or
Right.
like you would laugh or something.
Right.
She never done that. She was just like she knows it's there, but she never paid attention.
It's just something so different.
Yeah, it's just
Huh.
and so she was like I think it was like a speech and language therapist went to her house and was like noticing the differences and
Sure.
stuff. And they were like, and she like was leaning more towards autism than the rest of the pediatrician and the other psychologist was leaning more towards autism. And the other one was well maybe she just has like a social anxiety problem or whatever.
Sure.
And the speech and language therapist finally proved that she was autistic, and so
And that was speech and language. Okay. Wow. It sounds so interesting.
Yeah, I liked it.
And this was, let me ask you, did you find this were you just kind of looking, perusing, or
Well,
did you look under topics? Did
I
you?
went to health because I wanted to watch. I found one the other day about the girl who couldn't eat. Like she literally, her stomach wasn't big enough or something. I like read a little description about it or something. I don't know, but that wouldn't play. So I just looked at the little things that were like
That you could
that
get?
came up, and
Sure.
so yeah, I
Okay.
just clicked on that one.
Well, cool. That sounds awesome. You're making me want to watch it. You know, I've got add it to my list of things to do. That sounds really good. All right. So, did you think about the visual and the sound? What all for this? It sounds like there was plenty to. I mean, obviously, I know that we can't taste or touch. We can usually hear and see.
Yeah, but with the taste
documentary.
and touch, I put like the boy who couldn't eat. Like he would, whenever he would touch the food, he'd be okay with it. Like he could touch different foods, but if he like brought it up to his mouth, that's when he'd throw up.
Revulsion. Okay.
Yeah, and so like he just gag,
Bless
just
his
like bring
heart.
it up to his mouth.
Goodness.
And the so like I put the taste like when he would like, try new foods, he like it would zoom in on him like he'd get a really close
Sure.
angle of it, and so I put that for that, and then
Okay.
the smell like both they would try to get the little girl Jessie J. They would try to get her to talk about how stuff smelled because that's what like she was like prone to do. Like she'd tell you that you stink or something, and so they were like, "Do I smell good or whatever?" And she'd nod her head yes or no or something like that. They were trying to get her to talk, and then the boy he like he could smell the foods. I thought that was weird. He could bring it up to his like he can bring it up to his nose and smell it, but he can't put it in.
Did it make him sick to smell it?
No, like he can smell it all day long. Like they showed a scene of them like in a restaurant, like a curry restaurant or whatever, and he would bring out his lunchbox full of candy bars and like chocolate pudding. But he can like if he were to try anything that the parents got or whatever and bring it up to his mouth, that's when he throw it.
Oh, my
But he can
goodness.
look at it and smell it all day long.
Did he like what he smelled, or was he just kind of?
He said some stuff smells good and some stuff doesn't. He said, but the mom was trying to explain to him that it doesn't always taste like it smells. And so he's like, well, and then so he made this long bucket list of what he wanted to taste first. And they're British, so I don't know what, I think it was like bonbons or pom-poms or something like that. And then he went up to pizza and he cried when he tasted pizza for the first time because he's always wanted to taste pizza because that's a normal thing.
Was he disappointed, or do you?
No, he liked it.
Oh, he liked it. Okay,
Yeah.
just happy. Cry. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so good. Oh man, this is so good. Okay, so what else do you want to tell us?
There was, there was like a bunch of wide angles because it showed like the parents' reaction to what the kids
Sure.
were doing, and the lighting was normal, you know, like in a house or whatever.
Right.
But there's no editing. I mean, they might have took out the parts that like was like irrelevant to the documentary, but it seemed like nothing.
It's very much like you're just almost there with them. That's
Yeah.
kind of what a documentary I want it to feel like that as well. You did an excellent job of explaining, and you didn't read it at all. I'm so impressed that you have your notes here and you just discussed it. That's awesome. That's fantastic. All right. Anybody have anything to say? Anything? Just so good. All right. Who is next? I think it's Anakin is next. Excellent job. Can y'all see this okay? Do I need to make it bigger, or I think I need to make it bigger? If I click on to, I'm almost afraid to click on Cami because Cami's, there we go. Okay, can y'all read that from your seat? Yes. That's too big. Okay, can y'all see that all right? Great. Oh, okay.
Professional mountain climber and mountain with so we have 3 other professional climbers, and one of the other 2 were from Pakistan, where it was, and then him and the man Carol, they wanted to climb the mountain without oxygen, and so the other 2 went with them with oxygen just in case they needed help. Keep them awake, and it's the second highest mountain in the world, and they've only got the mountain like 10,000 feet less than what it actually is, and it's almost 30,000 feet high. And so there's only 4 camps along the mountain, and they try and do 4 days, and they have to wait at each camp like up to 5 days because they're resting, when their red blood cells are generated, so they have oxygen. And then they got setbacks because there were 13 other teams. Then there was 2 bad avalanches, and 3 of the teams got taken out. And then
When you
one
say-
of the teams got lost.
When you say taken out, do you mean like they died
One
or?
of the teams died,
Oh.
the other 2 were okay.
Oh, Lord.
They were on the other side of the mountain where they weren't supposed to be.
Okay.
And then, I think it was Adrian and one of the other guys, within the first few days, at the bottom of the mountain, because of avalanche stirring up everything in the air, oxygen, they got like bad sick. And so they had to wait like up to 8 days for both of them to recover and to eat food and there's constantly. And then they were able to go up to the second camp. And then while they were at the second camp, another avalanche happened and then took out the first camp that they were at. And then they made it to the third camp and had to rest. And then Carol, she got sick at that camp, or maybe it was the fourth one. She got bad sick and she had to wait 5 days, so they always get her. And then they finally made it to the top, and then they were like the first. She was the first woman to ever make it without oxygen up there, or it was to the top. And then Adrian was the first guy in 40 years to do it.
Wow.
And then do it without oxygen.
It's crazy. So so how you're going to tell me more. This is so interesting. So how did it look? How in the world? So there had to be a camera. So one of them had a camera.
Under like helmets
Okay.
everywhere, and then I think they had there's a tiny like GoPro looking. They like set it up on ice, and then whoever was in the front of the line would set up a camera. Whoever was in the back would pull it up, I guess.
Wow.
I think it was on like an ice pick that they set into the ice.
So did it feel like you were there with them? I mean, just
Yeah, like whoever was talking would show their camera, and then they had the cameras in the ice, and they're like right there beside them.
wow. Okay, that just blows.
Showed like their camp set up, like this tiny camp where they put like a table in there and chairs and tents. And then some, I didn't see them carrying them around in the tents. The base camps, since other teams were already there, they left their supplies for them.
Sure.
And so they left like sleeping tents and extra oxygen, fire.
Just blows me away. Did it interview like why they want to do that, or they just adventure lovers? They just
Like they wanted to do it for sort of thrill
real
and
seekers.
test themselves.
Want to be famous? Want to be? Wow.
I think she's only done like one mountain without oxygen, but she's been trying to train for it. And so then they both decided to do that together.
Now, my thing is, without oxygen, is there no repercussions to that? I mean, are they not going to suffer some kind of a?
They can, like, the other people were talking about how they wanted them to use oxygen, but you can climb that oxygen, you just have to rest like they did, where your red blood cells regenerate,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
you pass out and like fall over, but like, as long as, what they said, as long as you keep your head up and don't use your nose, it'll be fine.
Okay. So there's nothing that's going to happen to them later, or they're not. Okay. Wow.
They're like special masks, like breathe out, your air from your mouth's already hot, and so we breathe it back in, it's already hot, so
Oh.
it's getting cold inside.
We know that from one of these masks. I want an air conditioner behind my mask. It's hot back there. Oh, but that's interesting. Okay. What else? As far as visual, sound, and what else do you want to tell us?
Like they're like right there with them, because the GoPros on their head and the eyes ones, or sometimes could show like clips of them talking after they got back, talking about their experience and what they had to do. And one of the things when they first got there, the people that helped them up get to the mountains after the avalanche, they didn't want to take them no more. So they had to end up paying them like 5 times the original amount just to get to the mountain.
Huh.
Because they're too scared of all the avalanches and
Sure.
rock slides. Sound wise, you could hear the wind,
Mm.
the talking. Morning time, you could hear some animals talking distant,
Ooh. Carrie.
all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Good.
There wasn't really much touch and taste, but
Right.
like all the stuff they touched. And they talked about how the food tastes different, so it's cold. They
Sure.
had to eat like special food that you could cook just with water and save.
Were they hungrier because their body was burning up?
They had to 8 or 9 teams, 11 or 13. They left extra food at the camps for them. They knew that they were sick and needed food,
Mm-hmm.
and so they left them their food for them to eat, and then left them like little supplies along the way.
Okay. Wow. It sounds so interesting. You know, honestly, this is something that I probably wouldn't have watched, like picked out on my own, not because not because it's not interesting, just because I guess I'm naturally, I mean, I would have probably been taken with other things, but it's so interesting because it's so different than anything I want to dare, I want to think about. But it's just these people are these thrill seekers, you know, and they're brave and they're a little bit crazy, a little bit, just a little bit, you know. Wow. Wow. And when you said it wiped them out, that just, because it just thought they lost their lives. I mean, there was people
I
who,
think there was 3 per team. That one team that got locked out, 2 of them died, and the other one they found. Just like he had like boxed himself in, so they wouldn't be like swept away like they did.
oh my goodness. I just can't imagine the terror. I cannot imagine. Anything else?
Almost every angle. First person, 5 shot, and last shot showing the mountains, they were climbing up, and there were close ups of them like in the tent talking around, showing you their setups.
And this is real. This is not Hollywood. This is not a green screen. That's what blows my mind. This is, you know what I mean? That, oh my goodness.
Maybe Adrian, one of his physical training, he did like he ran like almost 4 miles a day, and I went on a diet for several months and trained just for this, just without using oxygen. And you can see like in his face, it was like all shriveled down, like he was skinny.
Oh, wow. They put their bodies through a lot to go through this. Wow. All right. Anything else?
From the sun, there's flashlights in the
Okay.
wasn't really a lot of editing or special effects. They just took it out like whenever they had to rest for a few days and took that out and just gave you like a final update on the last day.
Sure.
And then there was nothing at that time about it or anything extra that was being like
Well, sounds amazing. About how long was this documentary?
45.
45? Or how long was yours? About
42.
ish. Okay, great. Guys, excellent jobs. I am just thinking this is something I hadn't thought of doing until I'm hearing these wonderful, interesting stories. Because one of the things we're supposed to do this semester is you are supposed to write a script or a storyboard for, it said like a story or a book, but I don't know why we couldn't take a documentary if you choose to and make a little storyboard or write a script or movie script from this true real life documentaries if you wanted to. I could still open it up to a short story or a book, but these are amazing. Wouldn't these be amazing movies too? I mean, just if somebody wanted to go in and do this, because I found that a lot of times the best, not Harry Potter's amazing, but some of the best movies are based on true stories, right? They're true, or definitely at least based off of a book. So excellent job. All right, who was after Anakin? Obi? Excellent job.
Yeah, we did everything.
Oh, okay, all right. Awesome. So you're going to add on to this, or just tell us what you picked out of it.
The guy in the one here on the Zoom, he's coming out called K2. He's like just right over 8,000 meters.
Oh,
And somebody of it.
okay.
You're in like half a month, just trying to get like second or third can. And then like after that, they made it up to the top K2. And she was the first, like this is the first time like climbing a Fall Mountain. But I think because she said she climbed Mount Everest twice with the house. And they were like, she was a touring guy, kind of like helping up the mountain.
Sure.
And they said like she's been climbing like 30 years, like trying to do it like a living.
So she was a spring chicken.
No.
Okay.
And Adrian, like they brought along like 2 of their other friends that they like he met both of them in Peru, and they were trying to climb one of the mountains in Peru. And then she was there along with them, so like, they all became really good friends in like 1990 something. And so they've been climbing buddies for like 10 years, 20 years. So they were familiar with each other, and they knew each other's limits. But you know, hey, push this to that, and get a rest. And then,
Sure.
but like the first of the documentary, they were all talking about like how they got to this point in life, and like how they wanted to climb, and they wanted to achieve.
Right.
They took this like a 13 or 18 mile like straight road to like the start point east of Bacon, and like the roads were like off of a big cliff, like, you see in like India, anything like that.
Wow.
And they driving on, like, it was like maybe 5-6 foot wide, if that.
Wow.
And they're talking about like, there's like all jokes around, all stuff like that, like, hey, they would shake the car, do stuff like that. So like, they were still having like fun.
Sure. Ugh.
And like, they got to like one of the first like camp spots, like they could stop, do their like hiking, they're like walking for a good day or two to get to one of the camps. Because there's like multiple camps until we got to like the base camp where it's the mountain. And there's like the second camp, the people that were like taking them to the base camp, they were getting really mad and frustrated because they weren't getting tipped enough. They're getting like, they're getting paid for like $2 each, like per person, $2 tip each. And they were in watching that, so Adrian and their team, they kept going like double it or like triple it. So they could take them. I think they paid each of them like 500 euros each. I don't know how much it is, US dollars.
Okay.
So they could take them to the base camp. And then they showed whenever it was, when they like just first got there, or they were like walking up, it showed an avalanche that came on like the far like right side of the base camp. They took out one of the teams and then sent the other two home, basically. So like they went back with people that came with, like Adrian, that came with. And so they got to like the base camp and they're talking about like, this is like, 14 days, like just to get to this one spot, we had like multiple setbacks. And then that's when Adrian got really sick, he got his stomach bug or something. He got really sick and had stepping back another like 5 days. It was on like one of those last days that he showed like went out, he went out, he said, yeah, I'm gonna go look, we're gonna go look and see one of the spots that was video of. So they kind of like scouting it out. And then the next day they went up and they had like on parts of the mountain, there's like ledges to where like the snow would fall around you, so there's an avalanche, they wouldn't get swept off the mountain. And they had the other two guys that were with Carol and Adrian, they went up without them. Like build a platform to set their tents on, like out of snow. They use like old like potato bags and like, like that, and like sand in. They use those to like build a platform. And then they showed that like Carol, whenever she got real sick, and how she got like sick from like filling Mount Everest. And so she had like these like points back in her lifetime.
Right.
Or in the past that showed like, hey, that I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And they finally started going up onto the mountain again, and then one of the other guys got real sick, and he got the other guy sick, so they had to stop again. And so it's just like setback after setback after setback.
And these are pretty healthy people. I mean, these are not like sickly. They're
So it's not just like,
oh,
like they didn't train it
not
for
me.
years and years and years to do this.
Sure.
And they said KG was like one of the hardest mountains to climb because it's just basically straight up almost.
I
And,
imagine.
it took them like during the nights, it showed them like they like had like the winds or whatever, like blowing on their tents, like knocking all their stuff over. Not knocking out all of it, but like pushing it around.
Mhm.
It was like it was a day they were going up and out, like the last day they didn't until they got to the top of it. I think it was one of the avalanches that came down and they took out another team. They didn't take them out, like they set them back,
Sure.
like down to the bottom, as you can say, and so they like, got out. So like they like went home.
Mhm.
And then so Adrian and when they proceeded, and they were the only team that made up the mountain. And at the end where they got to the top of the mountain, so the Carol men, they're like sitting there like holding the phones out.
Mhm.
And they're saying like they were the only like 2 people that made up the mountain that last year. 30 years.
So they
So there is a huge for them.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's interesting how you both picked the Sun documentary, but you both had excellent discussions on it, but very different. And I mean, I think that, a lot of times teachers will say, oh, you can't pick the same thing. If everyone did it like you two, there would be no problem because they're both excellent, but both very different. So I think that I'm hearing even more interest in if you wanted to do a screenplay of that, focusing on the human, the people and their history, the lives. That just makes it even more interesting to us to do that. So that's fantastic. Anything else you want to tell us?
Both are kind of the same thing. So they got the they're sure where they going now.
Okay. So when did they do this? What year was it? You might have already said. Oh, 2019. So it's very recent. Okay. Wow. Okay. Great. Good. All right. Excellent, guys. This is excellent. All right. So anybody have any questions or comments on that? On those, so interesting. All right. So now we're going to go to who is next? Yes, Journey is next. Hi, Journey.
So I had secrets of the Stone Age because of it.
Okay.
And so basically how it started off was that it started with the Neolithic people. And so it just started off by talking about how at one point all they did was hunter-gatherer. And because of this, one of the things that they pointed out was that they didn't have a lot of kids, that they couldn't, and not that they would just die, it would be like as long as the female was breastfeeding, they couldn't have anything. And then as soon as they switched over to farming, and they started living off of the grain as their carbs, then they were able to have more kids, and so it just kind of exploded. And so in the Neolithic period, like these people, they had like basically everything was made from stone. They wanted to immortalize their people, like even their dead, so like their tombs would be made of stone, their worship areas would be completely stone, and like even their graves would have like these little stone, almost like tablets, like what we think of as gravestones today. They wouldn't have any kind of names on them. They actually had a point in time like where they would, all of these different religions would pop up. They had no idea what exactly they were worshiping. And they would find like these areas like underground caves where there would be writings all over the wall, just carved in. But that would be it. Like they could tell that it was holed up on purpose. That like once they left, they would just hold it up and they would go find somewhere else. And this was pretty much all in Europe, except for Hungary and Germany. They can't find any remnants of Neolithic people in those areas. And so it talks about the migration of these people, so they can tell that like similar drawings or similar stones being used would be just all in these specific areas. And then another thing that they were able to tell was that the way that their temples were built was still like in the same way that we think of society today, that their priests were top of the top, so they always stayed in the inner circle, and like it was deemed nasty for commoners to come inside, so they would just have to stay outside. That is their theory, because they can't prove it, it's too old. And they would have like all these carvings in this rock, and like intricate, like very like needlework type deal. And then another thing that they found curious was the fact that there would be these stones, they were huge, a few tons, and they were just moved in these certain places. Like if y'all know, what are they called? The stone tables, I think that's what they're called. They still have no idea what those are actually used for and how these people even put them together, because we don't really have technology that could lift stuff like that, stuff that heavy. So they have no idea how they were able to do that. And so the stone table stuff, those are known as megalithic stones. And they actually found in Britain, like, it was just these huge stones, like about as tall as that cabinet, that just, they were in rows. And the anthropologists, they think that they probably lead to something, but they don't know what it was supposed to lead to. Another thing that they found was that in their skeletons, they found that there was a large amount of stress and like anxiety for them, which, I mean, if you were living then, it was probably always stressful, but
Sure.
yeah, there's less known about the megalithic stones, like the purpose of them than what people actually worship. Another thing was that they think that their women were actually more highly regarded than their men based on the way that they were buried. So like they didn't actually bury them, they would just put these huge stones, kind of like the stone tables, but it was like, they were like shorter, more squatty like, and they would just put them around, and then they would put like a big rock on top, and they would put these intricate clay pottery stuff in with them, in with the women, but not with the men. So they noticed.
Sure. It's so interesting. This was Secrets of the Stone Age.
So since it's used visually, and yet you have the Neolithic structures and their intricate designs. The longer that the Neolithic period went on, which the Paleozoic era is after the Neolithic, so basically before the Ice Age is when, like, at the very end, you saw people like making these clay pots and these clay bowls with the intricate stuff on them. And then they used animation basically to show like how they hunted with like spear-like weapons, and then the transition to them farming and stuff like that. That's all it showed.
Interesting.
In terms of sound, they obviously used the majestic flute music
Sure.
that's in all of that. And then as far as touch goes, like they would zoom in so close that you felt like you could almost just touch it and know exactly how it felt to like touch one of these structures or the designs. And some of the rocks were so weathered down that that it just like the rocks had pores basically. And what one of the scientists said was like, what was it? He said there was less erosion in the past 4,000 years than there has been in like the last 200. Like now, like it is eroded over the past 200 years more than it did in the past 1,000 years.
Now, what would cause that, more erosion?
They said methane, and I think maybe like, I think he might have mentioned like carbon monoxide or something in the air that is causing them to erode more. Because that wasn't really a thing. Like they didn't, back then, you know, there were cattle, but you didn't they were wild. They weren't
Yeah.
like hurting them or having so many cows and
Processed.
have farms like that. So
Right. It was
now we have to have as many cows as there are people, basically.
sure
Um,
makes sense.
As far as taste, they didn't say, they didn't mention anything really about food or anything like
Okay.
that. Oh, there was one thing, just a little fact that the cows that they actually hunted and the ones that they found in the area were actually native to the Middle East, which was something that I guess they weren't supposed to be in Europe at all.
Hmm.
And so they thought it was interesting that these cattle were here, and these cattle are actually like, they knew that they were Middle Eastern because they have a common ancestor to this other cow, and not European cows was the basic thing.
Hmm.
As far as camera angles go, they did a lot of long shots to just show like the entirety of like everything. Like if they just showed you a stone
Right.
instead of all of those rows, and I mean it was rows that went on for miles, just and huge.
Amazing.
And then they did close-ups to show the engravings and the texture
Sure.
of their buildings. They weren't really buildings. Their houses were, the farther along you got into the Neolithic, they were like, they didn't have roofs on them. They were just open. And there's this area in Britain where it's like, there's like kind of like doorways there, but it's like basically everything you would need in this house has been preserved.
Hmm.
But there's not a roof, there's no electricity or anything, obviously, but it's like everything that you could ever need. Lighting, the only time they ever like changed the lighting was when they were like going into the caves. They're not really caves, but it's like they just closed them off so well, it basically was.
Hmm.
And so with all the rest of the lighting, it was pretty bright. They didn't really show like, there wasn't like a dynamic.
Right. Gotcha.
And in terms of editing, they used voiceovers for these archaeologists and anthropologists because they didn't, I think the only person that spoke English in that entire thing was Amanda, lived in Ireland. And yeah, a lot of them, the majority of them didn't. Another fun fact, while thinking about it, in Italy, there's this island that's off the coast of Sicily. I do not remember what it is called, but they actually, like at the end of the Neolithic period, they saw like this change like in the people, like they were becoming more curious, and so they think that they built a raft and that they went over to this little island that's off the coast of Sicily, and now that's the reason why people live there instead of having stayed in Sicily. And then they said, yeah, so while someone was talking, they would cut to see more images of what they were talking about, whether that's temples, stone tables, etc. And then they used animations to provide a visual of what living in the world would have been like.
Sounds. I want to see all these documentaries. They're so fascinating. This one, and I know you thinking. I mentioned the doing a script or a storyboard on the documentaries. You might think, well, how would I do one on that? Have any of y'all seen the movie Alpha?
Yeah.
I love that movie, and it was because it was subtitled, and it was. But I'm a big dog lover, and it was just. Do you think that was well done? It was just beautiful, and we saw it at the theater, and it was just. I just love it. I just love that movie. But anyway, so it can be done. I mean, it can be people a long time ago, and with the right people doing it, it's very effective. So very interesting. I'm so proud. Now, who is next? I know I had 4. I know you're 4. Yes.
I think
Sarah, what plan you're next? I'll get it on there. All right. Yes, ma'am. Can you see that? Everybody see that?
Okay. I changed a few things on that, so I don't know if it's updated, but I'm gonna read from mine.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, mine's a bit more brief. So the documentary was basically about how people were trying to reverse the effects of aging, and it talks about how people were trying to manipulate the process of aging and the natural processes of it. And then throughout the documentary, it goes through all the work that scientists are doing to reverse aging and add a few more years onto human life. And they do that by they were doing testing on mice and other mammals, and the test came out to add about, I think it was 5 to 10 more years on like life of like a mice and a horse. And a researcher said that if done by humans, that it could add more years to human life.
Wow.
Um, the visuals in the documentary, they were really good. There were a lot of outdoor shots, so it showed a lot of scenery outside. And the camera continued to move wherever the people in the documentary were talking. Um, the sound, there was subtle background music, but it stopped playing when like people were talking. There wasn't anything that really applied to touch or taste or smell in the documentary.
Okay.
On the camera angles in the documentary, there were a lot of close-ups, but there was a wide variety of different camera angles throughout the documentary. Most of the lighting, it was a lot of natural light because most of the shots were outside, but indoor shots, it was just normal like overhead room lighting. And there wasn't any special effects or anything in the documentary, but it was edited really well with good lighting and transitions and voiceovers in the documentary.
Excellent. Okay, very good. So I'm thinking this one, since it's obviously, I mean, it was professors, scientists, and all that. How would someone, if Sarah wanted to do this in a script, what could she do with this topic? If she wanted to,
Scientist perspective.
okay, she could do a scientist perspective. Yes. Good. What else could she do?
You could do somebody that they figured out how to reverse, the process, and then like tell them.
Sure, you could. So there's a number. You could focus on the scientist doing it. Like, am I okay? Kind of a Frankenstein type thing. Am I doing the right thing? Is this okay? And then the person that, wow, I'm still alive. All my friends have passed on. Something like that. That would be fantastic. So again, and I don't want you to think I'm pushing the documentary, but I just feel like these stories are just so amazing and they're true. I mean, I'm so fascinated. Excellent job. All right, I believe Rayleigh, you're next. Okay.
As a child, he was like super isolated, and like he's always been like a weird guy, so he kind of like didn't have friends or anything. And he read like Edgar Allan Poe as like a little kid, so he's always like kind of weird, or like really weird.
My kind of guy. Awesome.
And you can, like, when you see him in Burning Film, you're like, you know that that's too Burning because he has a really unique style of, like, directing.
Yes.
And he started out, actually, with Disney, making a couple of, like, short films with them. And he made Vincent and Frank and Weenie. And there's 2 versions of Frank and Weenie. One of them is, like, animated, called King George and Superman. And then there's a short one that has, like, real people and stuff.
Really? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. And those were 2 weird, so there's new Fire Egg.
So it's Frank, they thought animated was too weird also?
They
Oh,
thought
the real one.
were too weird.
okay. Huh.
So they fired him. And then he started working on his own, and he made like some of his most, like his biggest films, like Beetlejuice and Epic of the Hand, like things like that. And obviously he got like really popular because of like some of his films.
Mhm.
And a lot of his movies include showing expressionism. like, one of the main ones was he wasn't Batman because he created Gotham City. Like, he was designing it and making it look like he wanted to. And he, Metropolis owners, like, the big building designs and the shadows and, like, how that was working out. We've all done expressionism. And recently the live action version of Dumbo came out, and he was the director of that film, or he worked on it, something like that.
Wow.
And that's like kind of when his career came to cycle, because this more than that.
Oh,
Because he had like all that success,
sure.
and people like love his movies, you know.
So did he let them, okay, they probably sweetened the deal. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Don't you like it was sweet for him? He's like, yes, you want me back now. Right. Awesome. That's awesome.
Usually, it's kind of like the different documentary documentaries. I just not set up like a typical documentary. So a lot of it is just picking scenes from his movies, and like pictures of his original drawings and like characters of his movies, and just like showing out how the narrator talks about them. And like what he's saying.
Cool.
Sound-wise, it's mainly just the narrator talking, and the music that is in the background is kind of like something that you could take from one of his movies, like kind of dark and slow.
Sure.
Touch, the only thing I can think of with this is that since he does stop motion films, you could see like him moving on those things and like playing with the clay and whatever.
That take, and just the time that takes, if y'all know what that is, stop motion and clay, what was it called? Clay motion? Clay? Just clay motion? Can you, I mean, it takes forever. I mean, I'm sure, right? I mean, it's just, okay. So it showed him, he was into that as well. Yeah, oh my goodness. So he's obviously an artist in more ways than one. All right.
Camera-wise, like it's not like set up for some reason to documentary. It was straight on shots. Some of them, there's a few clips of interviews with them, but like not a lot, like a handful. They're just like really basic scenes from the movies that show that they are the ones that they got.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then, all right, lighting.
Was very consistent. Anything really damaged, like, has a very dark setting.
Sure.
It wasn't very edited. It was just clips put together, and then just a few scenes talking.
Perfect.
And one of the things I remember is in the intro of one of his movies, he fought the company to change the logo. Like if it was like the Warner Bros. Logo, he wanted to, instead of like the happy background, he wanted to. And that's kind of what started everybody editing the first edit for them.
I see. It has his almost like a copyright. It's Tim Burton's stamp on it. And that way when you see it, you know it. It's his brand. I love that. Okay, interesting. Don't feel like I'm pushing you to do a script on this, but if Riley wanted to do it on this, what kind of stuff could she do with this? Yes. A biography or autobiography, taking it back when he was a little boy and kind of showing, growing up, and it would just be so interesting. So the difference taking from a documentary to a movie would obviously be plot, what happens, and of course his life is there. You'd elaborate on those things and add dialogue, scenes. It would just be wonderful. This is so interesting. Thank you, Riley. All right, so now I think it's a perfect time for us to take a 5-minute tech time. Yes, you know what the phone thing to do. So let's take a 5-minute tech time, guys. And then after that, I know if you haven't shared already, I've got everybody here has shared. So my virtual, we've still got several who need to share. So y'all are up next. I'll go ahead and put the timer on for 5 minutes, okay? I'm going to stop presenting for just 5 minutes, but I've got my timer on, okay? And I will put it in the chat also.
Can I go next?
Absolutely, Bob, would love it.
All right.
I'll go after Bo.
Thank you. Who is that?
Madison.
All right, Madison, great. $9:04. Oh, there's my email. Sorry. Okay. Great. Five minutes goes by fast, doesn't it? I'm enjoying this documentary discussion so much. Isn't it interesting? I love it. I absolutely love it. I wish I'd have watched one now and shared. Okay. Okay, guys, so it is time to meet back. And we have got, let me check really fast on my virtual, make sure they're back in. We've got Bo going next. And so I will go ahead and click on and let Bo, I've got it volume turned up loud so we can hear you. We just can't see you. I mean, I can see you, but okay.
All right. So I had Mutation, the Science of Survival, and it's about how mutants lurk around in many cultures, and they're happening all around us. And researchers are uncovering how mutants actually work, and that they may help us find cures for life-threatening diseases. And in this documentary, we get to see many different animals, such as like a two-headed snake, and there's a two-headed pig, and there's like, I'm pretty sure there's more than that. And there was a couple albino animals, like a squirrel and like an alligator. And so like the two-headed snake, it would like, one head would want to go one way and then the other head would want to go another way. So like they're like fighting with each other, and like,
Oh.
one was going to go left, one was going to go right.
Sure.
And they would always get stuck on stuff, and it wasn't the smartest animal.
No.
So they couldn't they couldn't live out in the wild by itself. It would always die, or so they have to keep it
Sure.
contained or whatever, so it'll
Sure.
live.
Ugh, it's just
And-
freaky.
yeah, no, it's real weird. And there was like the two-headed pig. That thing looked creepy as crap, and like sometimes it doesn't have to be two-headed, but like it could have like two bodies, or like 8 legs, or
Ah,
I would
it's
say
like, it's really weird. And it showed us like a two-headed pig, and I don't know, I was kind of creeped out. And then like the albino squirrel, it was just like a white squirrel and had like red eyes and kind of looked scary too. And the albino alligator is like, I mean, it wasn't just really, really white, but you could tell that it was a different shade than all the other ones.
ugh.
And the eyes were a different color, and
Oh.
I don't know. It's just creepy.
Okay, Bo, Rachel's wanting to see a picture. Would you advise us looking it up or not of the
Nah, y'all can go ahead.
two-headed pig? You don't think we should? Okay, I don't know that I want to see it. I don't know. It's scary.
I'm looking right at
And the two-headed snake. I mean, I don't like snakes anyway. And it's just like that. Just
Oh, it was like a golden snake, and they called them golden girls.
oh no, oh no. Well, that's interesting. Oh my goodness. Okay, so did they kind of explain how? I mean, why this happens in nature? Just kind of
It's just messed up in the genes or whatever.
sure.
Get messed up.
It's just interesting. Okay, so visually,
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it really wasn't that much. All you could see was just like the trees, and the cameramen were always like had the camera on the animals that they were showing,
sure.
and it was always outside. Really, there was no inside really.
Right.
You could always hear like birds in the background in the forest or whatever, or wherever they're at, in their backyard, or you could always hear birds. But other than that, I mean, just the guy talking about the animals. That's really all the animal or all the noise you hear.
And so they would pick them up. Like, do they pick up the snake?
Well, yeah,
Ugh.
they pick up the snake, and like, not the alligator though, obviously, but
Ugh.
yeah, they kill the snake and stuff. But I mean,
What about the pig? They pick the pig up.
well, they had like a dead one
Oh,
that they were showing around. Like in like middle school or something, how you dissect a dead pig or whatever,
yes.
and it like looks really weird and wrinkly, and like they had one of those. They had a live one too, but like they were showing the dead one around. But
Sure. Oh, okay. But this is something I need to watch before I have lunch. I will not eat as much lunch. Okay. Oh, and camera angles.
oh, so there was like close-ups on the animals and like medium shots.
Okay.
There was no taste or smell because
No,
yeah.
thank God, no. Okay. And lighting, you said it was outside, natural.
There probably could be smell, just like the smell of the animal, but I
No,
didn't.
no, I'm good. I'm glad you edited that out. Bo, thank you. This is so interesting. Guys, what could Bo do with this if he wanted to make some kind of short script?
like Charlotte's Web, the two-headed pig.
Sure, you're saying like a Tim Burton Charlotte's Web. That would be just kind of combining these documentaries. Okay, that would be interesting. What else? Like a zoo for Gene.
Or like maybe like
Gene's got
perspective of like a farmer or whatever, and him having
Perspective of a farmer.
and like
Sure.
one of the pigs giving birth to the pig, or like two-headed
Sure.
pig or something.
Okay, yeah. So there's all kinds of, and as we're doing science, I know that Sarai had hers on stopping aging. You can almost combine. I mean, it's like science. Are we going to try to do something to correct these abnormalities in nature, that's just something that happen. I mean, could it be corrected? I mean, if they're going this way, I know like we talk about humans there are Siamese twins. They separate, and hopefully a lot, I don't know the statistics, but a lot of the times they're okay, just depending on how they have to take them apart. But anyway, very interesting though. Albino animals? What kind of animal?
Melanism, obviously melanism.
It's when they're, so what is that? Like a lot?
They're black.
No, I have not.
Really,
Oh, I don't know. Is it scary? Is it not? Well, so what kind of animals have that?
Tigers,
And
tigers, crocodiles.
What color are their
I
eyes?
want one.
They're just dark brown.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I'm sure they're beautiful because the albino to me are what are frightening looking.
That's what I want.
And
Look at the lion.
there are albino people. I mean, there are albino. Oh, it's
There's
beautiful.
there's people
It's
with
beautiful.
melanism too.
What is melanism too? Okay, well, I just think that something about the albino looks more frightening. The melanism, they're beautiful. Okay, so guys, we've got a few more people who need to share. And here's the thing: if you are wanting me to share it, guys, it just won't be as good because I'm gonna have to read it off I'm just gonna be reading off the screen because I haven't seen these awesome documentaries. But I'm not going to force anybody because that's no fun either. Although it is very good for you. So just let me know what to do. Oh, Madison, you said you'd go after Bo, didn't you? Madison,
Yes,
someone
ma'am.
pull Madison's out. That's good. Madison. Okay. Oh, Madison. Okay, I was looking at this this morning.
It like what I wrote looks like it's a lot, but it was mainly just going over like different people as well because I added different sections of it
Okay.
because I wanted to include them in as well of it because they were a part of the story.
Okay.
It's about a boy who he can't forget. It's called like hyperthymesia, I think.
Hmm.
And at this time they were taking the documentary, he was about 20 years old and he was in college and stuff. He lived in Durham, England. And he would just tell them that he wouldn't forget and, try and prove that he couldn't. They would ask him some random date or like August 4th of 2004, and he would tell them the exact day of the week it was. And they also went to this other guy to see if he thought he was telling the truth because I forgot his name, but he trained his mind to never forget for a lot of years so he can remember dates and everything. But they talk about it, and he also did a brain scan, and it said that he has these visual areas in his brain that he uses that not the average person does. And it was also similar to a woman named Julian Price, or Jill, because she was the very first one to be diagnosed with it. And she does not like that she is like this because she's haunted by her past and her memories. But that's not the same for everyone because there's also another man named Bob Petrella who he loves having all of his memories, and he wanted to write like a book or a journal about it and, over all of his most memorable memories. But Jill, she just writes like all these notes of everything she did throughout the day, not to remember, but she said so she doesn't go crazy.
It's their heart. Goodness. Have y'all ever heard of this? Because I have not. I have the opposite of this. Whatever this is, I remember I'm Dory. But I could see how it would be wonderful, but it would also be it could be very awful at the same time, Some things you don't want to remember. So, oh my goodness. All right, what else did you find out? What about visual?
The visual, I could see, everything they were doing in the documentary and what places they went to and who they went to go see. There were, so many different people he interviewed. And there was also this one man who said that Jill was obsessed with her past when she actually wasn't. It's just what he thought, and he had never even met her. But she took a lot of offense to that.
Sure, I know.
I was able to hear everyone who talked in the documentary and listened to what they had to say about what was going on. And for touch, I put that like as I was watching, I would just touch things at the computer because everyone is, and they would touch different things. And the taste, they were eating some like a large meal, and it was almost as if I was there to eat it, I guess. And for the smell, they were eating like chicken and mashed potatoes, and I put, like the smell's always been stuck in my head of that certain smell. You know what it is usually what they're cooking.
True.
And there were a lot of different camera angles. Like they had a lot of eye level because he was always talking to him, and he would video right there. Sometimes it'd be up top, like a high angle, to get everyone in the view of who they were talking to.
Awesome.
For lighting, it was a lot of natural light because they were outside by a river a lot, or they were inside, but it was still kind of natural lighting. The only time it was really dark was when they were doing the brain scan, and they were there for about an hour or two, and he was just sitting inside. And the editing, it was good. They had a lot of good transition with everything, and they would use voiceovers explaining something that before it happened or where they were going to.
This is excellent, and this is for if you chose to choose this for a script or storyboard. What kind of things could she do with this if she wanted to?
Perspective with the one girl that hates having it.
Absolutely, it could just be. Again, it could be. She wouldn't have to use her name, or she could just make it this idea. And that since she's watched this documentary, she's going to write a scene, that could be put into a movie, her based on real life. This is excellent. Okay, thank you guys. This is so good. All right, now who would like to go next? If you, I've got. Let's see. I know Aaron has sent me an email. Aaron's still having some internet issues. I might have to share Aaron's for him. Let me just see. What is it? Oh, Kaylee should go. Let's just see. I'm offering here really fast. Guys, what do y'all think?
I'll go.
Okay, who is this? Kaylee?
Kaylee.
Kaylee, all right, hon, let me click on you.
She is.
Okay, I love this. It's just like a radio show. You guys sound like you're on the radio. It's so awesome. Okay, here we go. Excited. We're ready whenever you are.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Mine was about Titanic's final moments. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Mine was about Titanic's final moments, or like the missing pieces. In the documentary, it states how the Titanic was built, and it was like practically unsinkable, even though obviously it wasn't. It was supposed to be practically unsinkable because they had like a double bottom. So like even if like the bottom had like a crack in it, there like water wouldn't have been able to get in. So they had like 2 layers. And then they had these compartments, and like if even like one of the compartments or like 4 of the compartments filled up, it was supposed to be able to still stay above water enough like for enough time to like for help to arrive. But obviously it wasn't unsinkable. Though some parts of the Titanic were found and most of the theories were proven, like hitting the iceberg, which tore the side of the ship. So like since it tore the side of the ship, all the compartments flooded, and so it was able to sink. Though in 2002, 2 divers thought that they had found part of the bottom and stated that it looked like it was torn like a can, like torn back like a can of like soup or something. Like the metal was like bent.
Right.
But they couldn't prove it because the pictures that they took were too blurry, so like you couldn't really see. So in 2005, 2 men and more divers decided to go back to the location and see if it was if they could
find the bottom again. Because if they found the bottom, they could prove that it wasn't just the side of the ship that was torn and made it sink. It would be also the bottom. So like when they hit the iceberg, like the way it was shaped, like it could have scraped both the side and the bottom, which would make it more sinkable because it would have tore the double bottom and the side.
True.
Visual. While the teams were at the bottom of the ocean, it shows you clips of what they had seen. The clips show Titanic at the bottom of the ocean and like all the algae and stuff growing on it. And so you could actually see like it would show you clips of what like the Titanic looked like before it sailed, and then it would show you like pictures of what it looked like then. So you could like see that even though like it was tore apart, like you could see that it was actually the Titanic. Like it would show you like parts that were still intact, and so you could tell it was the Titanic.
Right.
It would also show pictures of when like people boarding the Titanic and like what it looked like then, and it would show you like some of the families that boarded, because they actually interviewed a lady or a woman like now that she's older, because she was like really little, like 4 when she like actually boarded, and she survived, and they interviewed her like years later.
Oh, that would be good.
Most of the time the sound was like really calm and stuff, but like at times like when they couldn't like find the piece that they were looking for, like they would like really dramatic, because I guess it was like on the documentary was like actually on television, so it'd have like breaks where like commercials would go, instead of have like eerie music, like when they couldn't find it, or like when the people wouldn't answer back. Touch. The little girl that I was talking about that actually survived, she stated in the interview that like the thing that she remembers the most was how like cold the water was. Like she can still like remember like when the raft hit the water, when some like the water splashed up, she like remembers how like cold and freezing the water was. There wasn't any really taste or smell mentioned. Camera angles, they pretty much use all the angles. Like they would, like when people were going down into the submarine, it would show you like them like climbing down the ladder, like you from above. But they mostly use close up, over the shoulder, and they use medium shots when they interviewed, because they would actually interview everyone, like even the people that like were going on the submarine and like what they saw and everything. The lighting, most of it was natural light because they were outside a lot. But at some points it was really hard to see because there was only one light on the submarine, and so like you could see stuff at the bottom of the ocean, like it was really dark and you couldn't really make out everything. And then the editing, there was a lot of clips and pictures added, as well as like the music and stuff. And they would also jump from talking about like present day and what they were finding to like somebody talking about like what happened when the Titanic first sailed. So there was like a bunch of jumping back and forth.
Excellent job. Now, what I'm thinking of this, if someone made a screenplay off of this, why not make a very good movie? That's a joke, because Titanic is one of the biggest top-selling movies ever. But is there something else someone could do with it? Because we know Rose and Jack, and they even the beginning of the Titanic. How many of you guys have seen Titanic? Has everyone seen it? Okay, the beginning, they got the guys modern day, they're going down into the submarine and all that. And you got the story, you got the emotional pull, so that's all there. Is there anything else there, or is it just done? Could she find something else to write about, or from a different perspective, or do something else with this?
Be like a dynasty or
Okay, so a recovery team, like some modern day trying to do it? Okay, good.
Kind of like fact checking it, because
Fact checking?
I was actually watching a video where it was like them talking about how they had enough lifeboats and they decided that they should take them off.
Because it made it look
It
too
made it look too
boxy or too,
Yeah.
not pretty enough. Oh my.
I was like,
Oh, I know. That's
and
crazy.
then like when you watch the videos of like the dive team going in, like they literally like in the movie they put some of those in there, like not just talking about the beginning, but like they would flash to like what the divers actually saw, so like actual pictures, and
Right.
then the movie that had like those fruit looking things on the side of the stairs, like that was a thing that was there. It
Sure.
zoomed on them, and the stairways completely collapsed, but like it shows that, and it shows the stairs from the movie.
True. You're talking about like how it looks at the bottom of the ocean, to what it looked like when it's a great day, right? As we're talking about, kind of
Yeah.
comparing. Yes. So there are things there we could do. You could do from the perspective of the captain, or the engineers. So there's more here. Although you're thinking, well, how can we possibly go touch Titanic with what's then? But it just shows how true stories make amazing movies when it's done well. I mean, they obviously they do amazing. So excellent job, Kaylee. We've got time, I think, for maybe for one or two more. I hope. This has been, look at me. This won't take long, and this has been amazing. You guys have just blown me away. I'm so impressed. All right, who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, awesome. And who is this? Just Jaden. Awesome. All right, Jaden. On there. All right, we are ready when you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're perfect.
My documentary was Tashi and the Monk. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. It's about a 5-year-old girl, and she was neglected and abused before she came to the community. She was left orphaned whenever her mother died, and then her alcoholic father left her. But when she gets to the community, she starts out really bad and like hurts the other children and just doesn't want to have anything to do with them, really. And then they finally, like, they don't want to use, at the community, they don't really use medicine on the children or anything like that. They just show them like affection, and they give them what they've been missing all their lives. And so they finally help her make friends and become more social with the other kids.
Very good. Okay. So, and then, so you
And
want to
then for visual, I put, this doesn't show what mine shows, but it's okay. I'll just read mine.
please.
I don't think. Hold on. Yeah, it does. Never mind. I put the documentary follows up in their community, which is small and not the richest community, but they all make it work in the end anyway. Like, they all work together. And for sound, they all speak another language, but since she is young, she doesn't really speak much to the other kids. And then they're usually outside, so you can hear outside noises and background music and the narrator. And for touch, the girl, since she had like a lot of problems and she was neglected, she would sometimes hit the other children. But when she got in trouble, the adults would give her small, soft touches, and the monk would hold her hand softly so he wouldn't scare her and to give her comfort. And for taste, I just put, the girl would put like different foods in her mouth, but she would always spit them out at the other children. And then they would also make their own food, and she would do that. And then there was no certain smell. For camera angles, they used a lot of eye-level shots throughout the documentary, and sometimes they would use close-up shots, but they used a lot of other ones. I just didn't put them on there. Like, shoulder shots. And then for lighting, they use natural lighting from the outside. They were usually always outside. And then if they were inside, they would usually use the outside lights from the windows and stuff. And for editing, they had little editing, but they had background music, a narrator, and subtitles since they spoke another language.
Okay, that is excellent. I'm just thinking, could something be done with this documentary? You know the answer is yes. So if Jaden wanted to do something like this with a small script, what could she do? If she chooses this, she might not want to, but
From the little girl's perspective, but in like our language.
sure, they could do, or you could do subtitles because I know that something, oh, it's a subtitle movie, but sometimes when it's done well, I mean, it's to me, I think it's a plus for that. You know what I mean? It's up to be up to her to, you know, to decide that. But I think that's excellent. All right, who we got left now? I know we're almost, I think we got time for maybe another one. Let me see. And it's not able to see everybody here. Let's stop presenting so I can see everybody. All right, so I know Kaylee's gone, Madison, Jaden's gone. Who else is not? Everybody's gone. No, Caitlin, are you ready to go? Okay, you want to share?
You can.
Oh, okay, I certainly will. And then after this, if I have time, I will go ahead and share Aaron's. Aaron is having internet difficulty. He's emailed me. So, and I told him I understand. Okay, so this is Where is Shelley? This is a documentary, focuses on the case of Shelley Miscavige, the wife of the leader of the Church of Scientology. She's been missing since she disappeared in 2005. The Church of Scientology has had allegations of abuse, mind control, and other cult-like tactics, which doesn't help their case. Leah Remini is also doing, I don't know if she's still making those shows. She was on the show with Kevin James. What is, it's on there. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, here we go. Members of the church say that Shelley has voluntarily gone into hiding and they have spoken to her, but many, including celebrities such as Leah Remini, believe she has either been locked away by orders from her husband or possibly worse scenarios due to the lack of evidence of Shelley being anywhere near where they say she stays. Okay. Very, very, very scary, you know, and it's a lot of, I say a lot of Hollywood celebrities. There are some. I know Tom Cruise being one of the most well-known ones in the Church of Scientology, high up in it as well. I mean, I don't know. He's like a priest or whatever, but he's like, I don't know. He's been in it a long time. It shows pictures of Shelley with family and friends, showcasing how happy she was. The background, they have the interviews with her family and background music, and it says eye level angles. And the lighting is high and low depending on what's being shown. Thematic and classical editing going on. Okay, very excellent. So guys, now this one, if one were so brave, what could you do with this?
From the perspective of that girl that's missing, like, you know, like she's having something.
Oh, okay. So you can just make a fictional
Yeah.
off this. Sure, you could. You could do that. Could she do maybe focusing on
Or like,
or someone from
yeah,
Scientology, which would not,
like the main person.
yes, certainly could if she chose. All right, very excellent. Now let me see. I know we're just short. Let me see if I can get Aaron's. I think that'll be everybody, won't it? If I have Emily and Aaron, and that'll be it. Emily and Aaron. All right, let me see here. Okay, so this one is
They did that.
Church of Scientology. Okay. Talks to people in the church and people who have dealt with the church. Many incidents where kids were taken to the church away from their families. There were boats where people in the church went to work on and the conditions were poor. Very poor people who got punished on the boats were treated poorly. The church would sell its members thousands of books that would usually cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. It mainly, though, and he says it mainly seems like a documentary against the church. So again, it's not, you know, when we talk about documentaries, we want them to be, we hope that they're balanced, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're, you know, it can be one-sided, they have an agenda. Visually, it shows us families in the church and also a person in the church. families would tell their stories, then the horrific stories were told to the members of the church, and he would try to justify them. Sound is talking with families. They would talk to high-ranking members of the church and see what their thoughts are on the controversies about the church. That's interesting. So they were actually able to interview people high up in the Church of Scientology, which that makes me think, okay, well, maybe they're trying to interview them. Touch members in the church who do something that are against the rules of the church are punished. This includes physical and mental punishments. Some people who were punished in the votes were forced to eat their food out of buckets, and the food they ate was disgusting. The people were being punished. They were kept in horrible conditions. They weren't allowed to bathe. And camera angles were mostly close-ups, like an interview style. Lighting, well lit. Lighting was bright on their faces. Editing was good. Lots of cuts to pictures and videos of Scientology incidents and back to the families. Okay, so again, with this one, you could just do a number of things with that. I'm going to try to get this one in, Emily. But I wonder, since she's not here, I wonder if I should wait and let her. What do y'all think? I wonder what she'd want me to do.
She probably won't share it.
You think she wants to share it with us? Then I'm going to wait. We'll wait on Emily's because I don't want to do something without her permission, without her doing that. So we'll wait. Guys, I am so proud of you all. We went through it. Y'all did such a great job that I'm just rethinking, because I had originally planned to do an activity with like the decades of film. And I don't know that we're going to have time for that. We may just kind of talk through it quickly, because I've got other things like I told you about the storyboard. That is down here, right here. We'll select a chapter of a book or a short story, write a script, and it's develop a storyboard. You could be using the documentary. So be thinking, if I don't use my documentary, what book, what short story do I want to use? And I would even include, Edgar Allan Poe, short poems. You could do that. So anything, and I don't feel like I'm pushing the documentary. I just was thinking what a great, you guys made me think of it, because it's so interesting that I thought that'd be a good idea. But I want you to just be thinking about it. We'll work on this next week. But I also want to show you how much we need to touch on. So this was week 4. We haven't even gotten there. Hollywood, history of film. So we've got again, Hollywood's a very short article. History of film, I mean, it's awesome because it takes in every decade. In the 1920s, let me just show you. It goes into, the 1920s has like 4 or 5 sections. Yeah, 4. It's so big that it has to do that. And then so pre-20s, if we have time, we have to do something with this. But I at least have to talk about it. We have to show you. It's just awesome. Next week, guys, is week 5. It's homecoming. We're going to go to tribe every day. It's going to be crazy. We'll have class on, what's today, Thursday? Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Isn't today Thursday? Yes. Okay, no. But look how much we've got next week, guys. Look at week 5. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But some of these are very short articles. So these are just going to be things that we look at, talk about, move on. They're not all activities that we necessarily will do. But I just want you to be thinking about your storyboard, your script. What am I going to do? You will have class time, because I don't really want you to have homework in this class. I think it's nice you can work on it if you want to, but you shouldn't have to. So does anybody have any questions at all? I'm just so impressed. This is I loved everything you've done, but this is my favorite. I feel like you guys just really, and I think that's because maybe you were able to choose what you wanted. I mean, it's kind of your interest, and you just took off on it, but it just made them. Now I want to see these documentaries, but I also want to see movies you might make off these documentaries. So I don't know, I'm excited. All right, that's all I have today. So we'll just get ready to go to our next class, I guess. And very great class. I'm so impressed. Excellent, excellent. All right, guys, I'm going to stop presenting now, and I won't cut off, of course, until the bell rings. But it's been a great class. I'm going to stop recording.